Awesome. All right, so we are very grateful to have our 4 amazing panel speakers today. Here they are teachers, mentors, the professionals, and designers. So we'll get started, but before we do that, we'll go around and let them introduce themselves. Who would like to start first? Guess we'll go in order. Robert?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Really excited to attend the first UX Calgary event. I'm the chair of the Department of Design at MacEwan University in Edmonton. We're a program of 320 students, 4 pathways, 34 faculty. The 4 pathways that we teach at our university are visual communication design, digital experience design, which is another word for user experience design, illustration, photo, video, motion graphics. My practice and research focus is in user experience design, and I have 20 years professional experience and 20 years teaching experience in design. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation with all of you and kind of share whatever knowledge you are interested in. Thank you.
We'll pass it on to Isabel.
Hey, hello everyone. I'm Isabel Sperano. I'm an associate professor of design, so more precisely digital experience design. I'm the coordinator for the programs that we offer in digital experience design. So right now our program is within the Bachelor of Design, students can take a digital experience design pathway where we offer 9 courses dedicated to design. And then we have other programs. We have a post-diploma certificate, and then we have minors also that students from the university can take in digital experience design. Here, just give you the links if you're interested. So yeah, really excited to be here today. For me too, it's my first UX Calgary UX event.
Thank you so much. And we'll move on to Milena.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me. Milena Radzikowska, I'm chair in the Department of Information Design at Mount Royal University. Our degree is sort of uniquely situated within the Faculty of Business and Communication Studies. But the degree itself combines so traditional visual communication, education, writing, and UX, UI. And my own, I've been a practicing designer for 25 years, but in my academic life, my work is predominantly in sort of feminist, intersection of feminist research and large data collections, large textual collections, and the design for those.
Thank you very much, Milena. And last but not the least, Indi.
All right, hey everyone. My name is Indi Wijesooriya. I'm the instructor manager at SegiStream. If you don't know, SegiStream is one of the largest continuing education providers for the future technologies. We started with AR and VR development and design education, and then we moved to game design and development as well. And in the future, we are spreading our wings to other technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning as well. So you can this is, it's a Calgarian company. I moved all the way from Sri Lanka last year to manage instructors and to provide good education for you all. So my background is in engineering. Computer science has been my major, and I've been working with 3D real-time technologies since 2015. So I wanted to actually share my knowledge with everybody. So that's when I joined SegiStream a couple of years ago to teach AR, VR, and also game design and development. And this is my first ever public event in Calgary that I'm a part of. So I'm pretty excited to talk with you all.
Thank you so much. We're really grateful to have you all here to share some insights on this topic today. So a little bit about the topic, future-proofing UX education. So when I first started my career, I always had this question of how do I keep up with the trend? How do I remain competitive in this industry? Because the very nature of the industry is changing really fast, right? As I have been a few years into this profession, I realized that I found myself talking a lot about responsibility, ethics, and DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equity in this very space. So I find it's really interesting to try to really shift focus in that area. But regardless, as a designer, we are, especially if you are a few years into your career, I don't know how many of you are, like where you are in your career, but in terms of future proofing, it is really about balancing the technology side of things and also the responsibility side of things. So we're really grateful to have the four of you here to help us navigate a little bit in this area. So our first question here is, it's pretty loaded, to be honest, my question here are loaded. So however you want to expand on this. So what are the ethical implications of some of the emerging technologies? Do you have any examples, case studies that you can share with us? So who would like to start first? I feel Robert is about to.
I can start again, but you guys can step up next time. Okay, so I'll relay an experience that's not just impacting the digital experience program within our Bachelor of Design, but it impacts the whole department. And that's really in the last year, just the emergence of artificial intelligence. So that's a good example of how, it's an emerging technology and it's definitely bringing up ethical implications for educators, but also for practitioners. And so we spent the whole year, Isabel, myself, and probably 6 other faculty on kind of thinking about how are we going to approach the use of AI within our program? How do we want students to be using it in the classroom, or maybe not at all? And there was multiple ethical issues attached to the use of AI. One is intellectual property. There's issues around AI. Artists and designers are very concerned that they didn't get permission for Midjourney and Dolly for AI visual generators to use to scrape their work off the internet and then reuse it without any credit in these new generation visual generators in what they're creating. And so there's an intellectual property concern. There's the concern around students losing the ability to brainstorm potentially because they could just allow AI to do brainstorming for them, particularly for illustration, designing a logo, or even doing UI. You could get AI to do that. Still not perfect yet, but it seems like a matter of time before it really gets quite good. In particular, we're concerned about the kind of different hats that a designer wears during a project, especially a creative project, where they are either an art director, they kind of where they have to understand the problem, the audience that they're designing for, and then kind of figure out a potential solution. And then there's the actual brainstorming of that solution, and then there's the determining of which of those solutions is best. And so AI definitely seems to be doing a pretty darn good job at that middle role. And so there's a concern for us that brainstorming skill, that it would mean that designers in the future may be kind of just doing art direction, curation, but not the brainstorming anymore. And that would be a big concern for us as a program, and really kind of calls into question what we're doing as a whole educational institution, if because that's a fundamental thing that we're teaching within our program. So that's not necessarily an ethical issue, but it's definitely a broad issue within design education. And then there's the ethical issue of if we teach the use of AI and AI ultimately could replace future jobs, if we allowed the use of AI, are we tacitly agreeing with the replacement of the jobs down the road? And so that was a difficult thing for us to think about. And then another ethical issue as a teacher is how do you enforce the use or non-use of AI, similar to plagiarism. So there's multiple ethical issues that we had to deal with in this committee. In the end, we ultimately came to a solution that was kind of not total prohibition, but really a slow introduction of AI within our program, because we see AI as really fundamentally changing the discipline, akin to how personal computers changed our industry back in the late 80s and early 90s, when it became more graphical in nature. And so, yeah, so that's one example of where AI definitely will have many ethical implications. Yeah.
Yeah, Isabel.
Yeah, maybe just to continue on that, there are some, so we came up as a program with an AI policy where we determined which of like the foundation courses, which ones could have AI or no AI, and why and for what reason. So we always think about, okay, what are the skills that we want students to develop in that specific course? And in my courses that I teach, well, students, they have it's the capstone course, the design research course, where students, they have to develop some writing skills, so writing reports and things like that. So in that course, we told students it's kind of good to start developing, to continue developing good writing skills. But then and I know that many of them are not using AI to write things, but I'm pretty sure some of them are. However, I would say that those who don't really know those who don't really know exactly what they want to write, you can see that the writing is good, the words are good, but it doesn't mean anything. It just kind of goes round and round. So you can kind of see if students are using it, if they actually don't really understand what they're talking about. So yeah, it's just kind of to give examples of things that we saw in the classroom.
Right. Yeah, Milena.
I had a real joy to hear a talk. We had these introductory talks just last Friday at our faculty council of folks who have just joined our faculty, so new scholars, new faculty members. And one of the talks was about sort of the environmental implications of AI, and it strikes me. It striked me, and it strikes me again, how every time that design has sort of, as we develop new technology, right, as new ways of doing design or engaging with design, or new things that are sort of have the potential of impacting design, we designers have sort of this choice of either looking internally in a kind of self-protection mode of kind of, how is this going to impact my discipline, my profession, how is it going to change how I teach? And these are really valid questions. These are important questions. But I worry that we don't spend enough time thinking about how we could do design differently, more responsibly than we have done in the past. So, if we look back on the last, 120, 30, 40 years of design history, other than sort of small pockets, we have not been as accountable to the kinds of things that we create and we teach people to create, and the kind of impacts that those things then have on people and sort of the world around us. And I guess my biggest concern with any new technology, I guess AI in this particular instance, is that once again we're going to sort of focus on the wrong syllable, right? Like we will not carefully enough engage with the consequences of working using that kind of technology, and not prepare our students to do the same. Rather than just kind of, and instead we will kind of chase our own relevance. And of course, what the others said too, it's also very important, but that weighs heavily on my mind the more we sort of, especially in at my institution, right, there's a lot of conversation around AI and a lot of this kind of excitement. I worry that we don't think about the sort of the reverse as equally.
Isabel.
Yeah, I think on that note, we try to be very transparent with students about AI, and we try to discuss a lot with them and what they think. And, well, I try to be very honest with them, saying that, no one really has the answers, and that we're just discussing together. And yeah, we try to include them in the conversation a lot, and they have good things to bring.
Yeah. And Indi?
Yeah, so since like all of us talked about AI, I'd like to pivot a little bit away from AI. Of course, with artificial intelligence, there has been so much of discussions around ethical use cases. But I'd like to move away from that. I'm going to talk about two things that kind of rely on ethical implementations. One is privacy. I worked on augmented reality applications since 2014, and back then it was very easy for you to build something, design something, build something, and put it into the store so that anybody can download. But right after 2014, 16 to right now, even you may have seen like how many times you have to press allow in order to just open up the camera on your phone. It is because there has been so much of incidents where people have used these apps as backdoors in order to gain unwanted information, mainly throughout the camera. Opening the camera itself has been a huge problem. This has been like one of the major discussions when Google Glass released the first Google Glass product. I think this was around 2013, 2014. Like that was a device which was like way ahead of its time. It's like one of the very first augmented reality devices that is sold on consumer level, but it flopped mainly because of the privacy concerns. Nobody wanted people wearing cameras and joining and going to private spaces. So that was one of the significant issues, like the privacy concerns. And because of that, there has been a lot of terms and a lot of conditions. Like even if you are working on your own augmented reality applications, you have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get your design approved by Google or by Apple. It has been quite the journey. Now, for an example, like something like this, a device, like you can see a camera over here. So now, instead of just one camera, you're just opening up 4 cameras. Every time that you wear an AR headset or VR headset, you are opening up a camera so that anybody who's connected to your device will have access to that. So companies like Google, companies like Meta, Microsoft, and even Apple, they're more concerned about stopping developers from accessing these data. So that is something that these companies has been doing so far. And for example, if you have seen how Apple kind of came up with the virtual reality headset, they never mentioned that it's a virtual reality headset. They mentioned it as an immersive device. One of the things that developers cannot access is the camera data. They have you were able to access camera data using an iPhone, using Android, so much of devices, but with these new devices, they're locking that access. So you will never be able to do that. You will never be able to access that. So the companies themselves has implemented those guidelines in order to be more secure and be more ethical. One other thing, so this is not about AR and VR. The other one is environmental resource utilization. So far, you might have seen like even Midjourney, even Dolly, like looking at this AI algorithms from a technical perspective, everything, every call that we do, like every question that we ask from ChatGPT, every prompt that we give to Midjourney, it does a bunch of processing in a server. So that server itself, why companies have done that is to be more efficient, because the computers are using energy. And most of these companies like Microsoft, Apple, they are like moving towards a net zero, like use reproducible energy as much as possible, when they could allow these things to happen like non-controlled. So like these companies, which is good to know that they are like moving towards more sustainable technologies. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing and providing different perspective on this topic. I'm just wondering to bring us home a little bit, because obviously there are implications, and there are implications we cannot even articulate yet. So as an educator yourself, what do you lean towards? Like, because I'm hearing that like at two directions. One is to we don't know what to talk to them about. The other is because there are ethical concerns, we should talk to them about it and make them aware there are consequences. So Robert, do you have a different opinion on that?
No, not different. That just kind of like, I feel like every product you work on is unique. It has a unique audience. It's a unique problem that you're solving. And so it's so difficult as an educator to prepare a student for every particular instance. So what we have to do is equip students with general critical thinking skills to be able to handle new ethical implications that will come up anytime. And so particularly in a university context where we're providing a liberal arts education, I think we're well placed to be able to provide that broader kind of ethical, critical lens on any particular issue. By the fact that we have 9 courses just in DXD allows us the time to kind of delve into those issues, aside from like the 45 other courses or the 38 other courses that we have in design. And then we can have students, we require students to do 9 credits in social sciences so that they really build an understanding of the psychology of who's using their product. So our job is really as a institution is to provide that scaffolding so that students, when they get into the real world, they have enough of that foundation to be able to solve any unique problem that comes in front of them.
Isabel? You're on mute.
Yeah. So one aspect that we believe is important in our program is ethics in research as well, because in UX you do a lot of user research. So how do you make sure that students understand implications of doing user research in an ethical way? So we have a course where they do, it's a design research course, Intro to Design Research, and we have a bunch of others that are where students do design a lot of user research. So for that, our university, they have a course-based ethics. So we can actually, all the courses where there is research involved, you have to kind of send what you're going to do to the ethics board at McEwen, and then they kind of grant us ethics approval for the course. And they kind of give us some insights on how to talk to students about ethics and to kind of make sure that everyone doing research in the university kind of follows the guidelines. And in my design research course, what I ask students to do, I'm just adding the link here. All the students, they have to complete research ethics training. So this is the TCPS2 core. It's not the best looking website and the best working website, but it's a training for on ethics, and then you get a certificate at the end. So it's for academic research, but I think it's also very relevant for us in UX. It's a bit lengthy, but it's well recognized. So yeah, all of our students, they have to go through that. So it's one way to discuss ethics.
Yeah, Milena.
I second my colleagues on all those things, right? Research skills, research ethics, writing skills, all of those beautiful things. And the one that I would add to, which I feel like it's going to be a long time before that one's under threat by anyone other than us, and that's solving complex problems, or sort of imagining ways to address complex, and particular sort of that category of problems called wicked problems. So the ones without solutions, right? And as we've the last 10 years, even less than that, really show us, there's the problems that are generated by by the environment as it kind of changes and evolves, and as we create new things, we sort of generate new problems. But we're also becoming better aware of the problems that have been generated in the past, or the problems that have never been adequately addressed, or have been wrongly addressed, unethically addressed. So the folks that I get really excited about are the ones where they get excited about the possibility of contributing their design education towards things that sort of really matter, and that are not they're not even so much driven by any particular client or any particular industry, and they will not be solved by any one particular solution. And if I kind of imagine my most idealist self would be more of that, right? Designers doing more of that kind of work, and even sort of more actively pushing themselves into spaces where perhaps design hasn't been as well represented, right? Or hasn't been imagined that it could contribute. And we have some really great examples, again, over the last couple of decades, such as healthcare, right, for example, and all the environmental sort of problems that we are so acutely becoming aware of. All of those are opportunities for our graduates to have the kind of capacity, the critical thinking skills, right, the creative skills, the sort of development skills, the research skills, in order to be able to contribute towards.
Isabel?
Yeah, I really agree with you, Milena. I think teaching students to tackle complex problems, wicked problems, sometimes, yes, it's about redesigning a website, but sometimes it's about more than that, and things where we don't know exactly where the problem is. I'm thinking about a project where we partnered with the city, with ETS, Edmonton Transit Services, where with the students, we tried to come up with solutions to help with improve safety in transportation. So that was a very complex issue for undergraduate level students. We here there's a link on there's an article that was written about it. One thing that we did with the students is that we questioned, okay, so with your solution, what can go wrong with it? So not only how are people supposed to use it, but how can they use it in the wrong way? And what can you do to kind of prevent that from happening? So it was kind of a shifting moment for them to think about not how people should use it, but how things could go wrong and what they can do about it. So it's also kind of another way to talk about ethical considerations. Yeah.
And Indi, I'm just curious, in your teaching, have you used similar kind of cases? And is there any examples you can share from AR, VR field as well?
Yeah, definitely. And as a matter of fact, like every time that there is a new device or a new hardware that's out in the open, like we had like, as you said, like it's a rapidly changing field. Like the things that you teach today is not it's not what you have to teach tomorrow. So we have to we have to keep on updating our courses continuously. And then we decided, all right, so this is not the way forward. Like it needs to be so much principle oriented in terms of design, in terms of using new technologies, like what sort of hardware that you have to work with. We used to say like new devices as unicorns. Everybody has heard of them, like everybody knows how they looks like, but not everybody has used them. Like like how many of you have used an Oculus Quest Pro? How many of you have used a HoloLens? Like those devices are out there, but we are learning to build applications. We are learning to design applications onto them. So on the other hand, we need to know like what sort of capabilities that we have, what sort of we call them augmentations, what sort of augmentations those devices provide. And at the same time, with those augmentations, how we can design experiences in a more ethical point of view. So rather than just teaching in terms of device itself, I think I agree with what everybody said. We teach the fundamentals of design. We are approaching our courses in a more fundamental point of view, where we look at these hardware devices and we brainstorm on how we can design with these hardware devices and what sort of ethical implications that might come up with these with these devices. On top of that, I think that's kind of like something that we can talk moving forward as well, like how universal your designs could be. Like can everybody use your application? Can everybody use hand tracking? Can everybody use like controllers, right? So like whenever we design whatever, we have to think of a way it's universal, and at the same time, considering all the ethical implications.
Thank you. Just tagging along, I feel this is maybe a relevant next question is, we're not healthcare providers. We don't have a code of conduct, but if you were to draft a code of conduct documents for us designers, what would you put in there? What would be that one or two thing you feel it has to be there? You will want the next generation designers to know. Milena?
I don't think my answer is going to be a sort of that succinct or simple, but one of the I did an activity last year with a fourth year critical design class, and the objective of that course, sort of very specifically towards like at the end of their degree, is to kind of append what we'd been teaching them for up to that point, to sort of put hopefully a sticky question mark as they leave us and start getting jobs and things. And wherever way the class kind of takes, it's always a small class, so however way we kind of navigated, I kind of let them lead me. And this particular group was really interested in they really wanted to make some positive contributions, right? That's what they really wanted to talk about, was like solutions to real problems, which was not the point of the course. But anyway, and we talked about, because of that, we ended up talking about sort of the circles of impact, right? Because in design, we'll talk about, here's, who are your user groups, you might develop some personas, you might, hopefully you've done some research to figure out, who is going to be either needing your design or using your design, or, whatever that's going to look like. But we stop past a certain point, right? Like there's maybe we'll go 3 layers deep, right? Like this sort of the person immediately using it, then maybe the people who are watching the person using it, or like, sort of thinking of service kind of design. I would like us as a community and my students to make it part of their practice to extend those layers of impact as far as they can imagine them. And then be able to ideally justify their solution as much to the person that is 7 layers deep as to the person who is their most direct user. You know, for example, the people who are going to have to deal with I know this is product design, but like, tech. So, whoever has to deal with the small components, right? Like whenever the thing becomes obsolete, they're going to have to take this stuff apart. They're going to have to like deal with all the components, and something's going to have so think far, when you're designing something, imagine how far back, that design is going to have a presence, and make it part of your argument, right? Because designs are arguments. Your argument of how you're going to either mitigate or kind of contribute back or like give back or sort of recycle back into that centerfold. So that would probably be the one thing that I would like for my students to be able to do.
Okay. Robert?
So by code of conduct, are you talking about like competencies that you think that students should have when they graduate? Core competencies?
I guess it depends how you define core competence, but this is more on the ethics side, I would say.
Right. Okay. So I agree with everything Milena had said. I think that ability for a student to think through the many layers is an excellent strategy. Think about the many ways that their product could impact the community is a really good approach. From an ethical standpoint, so for code of conduct, the closest thing that we would have as an institution or as a program is kind of program learning outcomes. We have a that's kind of, all of the curriculum kind of flows from, okay, what are the core competencies that we're trying to teach students? And many of these competencies tie into the ethical aspect of what they're building. So we have 9 competencies, for example. I won't list them all, but like key competencies that we have are just the ability to do problem solving, the analytical skill of understanding a problem, identifying a problem. You can't really consider the ethical considerations if you're not doing those pieces well. And so that analytical skill that I think great UX designers have is really fundamental to our whole design program. We also have, overall program learning outcomes where we want students to have kind of an eye always towards the broader social responsibility of the product. And this touches on what Milena had talked about, is that it's not just about your immediate users. You have to think about that, as the sphere gets wider, how is this impacting your local community and society as a whole? In particular, like social media, for example, as UX designers, you really have to think about are these products good for society? And should I be involved in creating these products when I graduate? And so, yeah, we definitely want students to be thinking about that more broadly. How do they fit into society? And then taking a human-centered approach also, I think, like all design is kind of necessarily human-centered. That's kind of core to what we do as designers, is thinking about who's going to use the product. And so taking that approach, I think, makes you consider those ethical implications. So those are kind of just touching on some of the learning outcomes that we have for a program overall. That would be kind of the code of conduct that we would have for future designers when it comes to ethical considerations.
For sure. There's really no short answer to this. So what I'm hearing is that you want to look horizontally, that how it's impacting the whole society, how your design fits in the system, right? And on the other hand, you also want to look deep, like how far does your design impact? So really to coming from that impact, think about the impact, and then you can then maybe you have a benchmark or parameter to judge your own design, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. So like like in our design 342 class, which is digital experience theory and methods, we teach students about interaction theory. We also teach students to take a kind of a technoskeptic view of product development. So we actually provide them readings, and we get them to watch Black Mirror to really think about, you know, the negative consequences of technology. We, you know, the book that I used last time I taught the course was The Shallows, which gets students to understand how the brain actually starts to rewire when you start using different kinds of technology. Neil Postman is an excellent author about general impacts of technology overall. So those are kind of concrete ways that we would kind of help students navigate these complicated ethical issues and broader impact issues that are the technology that we're building for millions of people don't have negative consequences.
And Isabel?
Yeah, I think I agree with all of these points. I also think that just to go deeper on the kind of user-centered view of things. Sorry, am I still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So one thing is to think about a variety and diversity of users as well. So not only the main users, but what about more edge cases, or a variety? People are very, you know, varied and unique. So how do you include that in your design? And one way that we've just started to do that in one of our course. We've partnered with Inclusity, who are helping us find users that would be a bit more diverse than, you know, students finding their own users usually will be, you know, their friends or people they know or people from their family. But then if we want to have more diverse users, we need to kind of find ways to find and to give students access to those users. So that's one thing that we're starting to explore. We've just started in this fall to do that.
And Indi, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd like to share some examples of like some actual use cases where ethical implications had to impose after releasing of the products. For example, if you remember, Meta used to Meta introduced their metaverse platforms, which is new. It's a new platform, it's a new system for people to engage. But even before, there has been like different kinds of similar platforms available. So there has been multiple occasions where people got bullied within those systems. And then like they had to provide multiple updates over and over again, designing in a way that anytime that, you know, as a new user who joins in these metaverses, to not get bullied. Like there has been like multiple iterations of design. So I think like with AR, VR, and some of these emerging technologies, like most of these things are like, as I said before, like unicorns. Like those are new. So people design without like, you know, people design to run applications, to run experiences on these devices. But at the same time, like their more priority is on like how to use, like what are the capabilities that these devices offer, rather than just looking at this from an ethical standpoint, ethical point of view. So our courses, that, you know, as well as the learnings, the teachings that we offer, we try to engage more of like, for example, we introduce ethics from the beginning. So before even thinking about the hardware capabilities of how we can design for new technologies, we start by introducing ethics and responsibility at the beginning of the courses. So setting that foundation for the importance of ethical consideration of technology kind of makes it more appealing. Like when it comes to design, when it comes to designing for this new hardware and software.
Yeah. I just realized that we're almost time. This has been a great conversation. I hate to stop it. And I feel like we only explored one side of this topic. So technology is neutral, right? It's just means to an end. So we explored today a little bit about the ethical implications of it. And then we haven't even got to the side of how can we make use of it so that it can serve better for humans, for diversity, for inclusion. That may be another topic for Luis to put together for our next event. So we do have a few minutes left. I'll pass it on to Valeria for some questions.
Thank you, Mong. So yeah, we have some actually interesting questions in the chat, and I would like to bring Patrick to the stage to ask his questions. He has a couple of questions, but I think one comes first than the other. So I will leave you with Patrick to ask the questions to our panelists.
Yeah, thanks. I just realized that I have like a virtual background from a different thing that I'm doing. Anyway, we'll just pretend that this is a thing. Anyway, so I was really kind of interested in this conversation. I'm really glad that you guys brought up a lot of this this topic, because I think it's a really important one. My question, I guess, is like, what advice would you give for designers who find themselves in a position where you know, the business requirements or like the decisions that are coming down from the top are in conflict with what they believe to be their own kind of ethical moral compass, right? Like the example that I think of is like, if you're designing a social media feed that's increasing engagement or whatever, but that just means, yeah, the consequence of like maybe driving more like social media addiction or disinformation or those kinds of things. So like you're generating revenue for the company, which is good for you keeping your job, but you are creating these consequences for people. And like, if you're in a position where you're kind of stuck with needing a job to do that whole like surviving and eating and paying the mortgage thing, what advice do you have for people who might be in that position?
Smash capitalism. Honestly, yeah, it's frankly the function of living in a capitalist society is you're going to have companies that want to make money, and people want jobs and they want to make money and have a living. And so this is always a tension in our society, and it stinks. Like the social dilemma is a perfect example of that, that there's, you know, like there's how many people working for Facebook and different social media companies. And, you know, like it's tough. Like, I think the hope is that we help students kind of choose the right career, the right career path. Yeah, it's not unexpected that students are going to, you know, when they graduate, they're going to face these kind of dilemmas about their own personal ethics, the ethics of the company, maybe not matching, but certainly if there's a disconnect between the values of a company and what the company is doing, then I think designers are well placed to point these out, to raise these issues. So yeah.
I'd add to that, Rob, that it depends on who you are in what room, right? So I think it's you know, as much as, you know, Rob laughed and we laughed, because that really would be the solution to that problem. You know, there are millions of smaller solutions that you can put into play, and part of that is being aware of how much power you hold in any given situation. And that takes time, and that takes maturity, both to have that power and to become aware of it. But as you do, right, there will come those moments, even in rooms where, you know, things are happening where, yeah, like you need the paycheck, you need to feed your family, right? If you watch for them, and if you sort of educate yourself beyond kind of your own positionality, like who you are as a person, you are going to have regular moments of where you can interject or sort of interfere with something that is happening that is not great, right? That shouldn't be happening. And as you grow in your influence and your power, I would ask that you sort of take on that kind of responsibility to do that more and more and more, right? As you are more protected, then that means you should be taking more risks, right? You should be calling out somebody's really awful idea about some app feature that is going to, make women more susceptible for harassment or something, right? And just like digging your way in, like just don't do it. Or you should, amplify voices that are, typically not perhaps heard at the table in that company, right? So rather than, I think, thinking of it as this, what can be very large and surmountable and very conflicted problem of like, I eat or I do a job where I have to act unethically, in whatever the situation, you can take on the kind of responsibility to sort of just interfere with non-ethical actions or systems or moments.
Isabel?
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. And just as an example, I've had many students who kind of came back after like a few years working in the field and telling me where they started in their company. They were not doing any user research because they didn't have time. And then they said, well, some of them said, well, I kind of started with a strategy of, well, can I just do 2 user tests? Just slowly starting. Okay. And then kind of slowly seeing that, oh, well, that test that thing that you did the other day, can you do a little bit more of it? Oh yeah, I'll do a little bit more of it. And you know what? We can also do interviews before we actually build something. So that former student was telling me that slowly they built kind of this user-centered philosophy in the organization that they didn't have before. And, they ended up hiring other designers and kind of developing more of a UX approach to things, which the company didn't have before. But the student said it was not about on day one saying, no, you need to do user research, you need to do this. It was about kind of slowly bringing things. Okay, you want a mock-up for tomorrow? I'll do it. Perfect. Okay, for that project. And then just kind of slowly bringing in more things as, they develop more knowledge of the company, they develop more trust with the different people in the company as well. It had their say, and yeah.
Yeah, I believe like as developers and designers who are designing not just like AR, VR, but apps, but just applications or systems in general. If we are to like, I have been in that situation, like where I had to build something pretty much same, like, build something that is more engaging and, addictive, like a game. But what we have done is, of course, fine, we can do that. But at the same time, like what we have done is we educated stakeholders about the potential long-term harm that it can make. Like this is like, for example, one of the very reasons that you can see screen time in your iPhone, right, is because it's because these ethical point of views that people have raised to these companies like Apple and Google. So they had to implement things like that. They're kind of blocking the very reason that they have their devices, around the world. But they are doing that. Like companies like Facebook, they have been pushing people, like they have been taking people in at the same time pushing people away from them, because they are trying to advocate to these ethical boundaries.
Thank you all for answering Patrick's question. Is there anybody else who would like to contribute to the question or have another question to add to ask our panelists? Milena?
Hi there.
No,
hi,
Polly, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Firstly, thank you for all the information and it was really insightful. I just have one small question. Considering AI has now, AI kind of is getting a little integral in designing. I just wanted to know, brainstorming requires time, creativity requires time, and companies now have a lot of projects. So is it that employers are now preferring AI because it's just that the project can be done, and as Patrick mentioned, revenue can come in? Because I feel brainstorming and creativity definitely takes time. So just wanted to know where the world is going right now.
Yeah, that's the risk that we talked about. That was definitely like, we're just, like, speaking of capitalism, it's a race to the cheapest. And so if a company X, has the choice of paying a designer 40 hours to brainstorm a development of a new logo, or and then you can just go to AI and then it can produce 40 designs for you in just 5 minutes at a fraction of the cost. That's a real risk. Yeah, so it's like, this is an issue that, like, it's not just design that's going to be impacted by how AI could impact jobs. And yeah, we just don't know. We don't know what the world is gonna. We don't know what the impact is going to be. But I think at the end of the day, we need to inform our students that this is a skill that you could lose if you use it as a crutch. Because even our own students, this is the trade-off that they're thinking of. They're like, well, I could, spend 20 hours to develop these logos for my project, or I could just go to Midjourney and then it can spit out a bunch of logos for me. And so we have to, for our students, we can at least tell them that this is, in the long run, you're not going to develop that skill. But for the industry, I don't know. It's unclear what's going to happen, and it's tricky.
So I have been I learned when I was in the university, I learned how these AI algorithms work in a, like, not into deep, but like, how they work all together with like natural, like things like natural language processing and, all these generative artificial intelligence. We have something called GANs, neural networks, which kind of combines a bunch of different pictures and, build something, totally unique. And I've been very much against, like, when I saw Midjourney and ChatGPT, I've seen posts, people like saying, hey, make money using ChatGPT and Midjourney. Just ask ChatGPT to make a children's story and then use Dolly or Midjourney or something to generate like images and then sell the book. Like, what's the point of me buying the book if I can just go to Midjourney and just generate a story for myself and just print it out from my own printer, right? So it kind of has those issues. So I think like I think what we can do is, of course, like, technology is generated. Like, obviously people have been protested when calculators came into the world. Like, when computers came into like the world, so much of jobs has been lost. Like, people who actually operated like big giant computers back in the day. But now we have AI. So I think it is what it is, right? So we have to find different ways in order to embrace artificial intelligence and what it can offer in order to make our lives easier, and also do more things in a short period of time. Like, like, for example, if I'm a designer, then I would I would definitely use AI to brainstorm. But if I learn a little bit about how this AI would work, then I might feed my own work into the AI and then get a different version of my own artwork generated through AI. So it's kind of like, using Photoshop, right? You use Photoshop to do like, I recently saw a very old news video of like the introduction of Photoshop. And there has been so much of discussion during that video, people talking about like whether this is a photograph, whether this Photoshop software would chase out all the actual photographers. But yeah, like, it's been 20, 30 years now, and photographers are still there, and people are just embracing those tools. So I think AI, Midjourney, ChatGPT, whatever it is, I think it's another tool that kind of allows us to embrace and kind of allows us to enhance what we can do that we were not able to do like before. So it's augmentation of humans.
Thank you, Indi. Isabel?
Yeah, and to go kind of yeah, a little bit with what Andy is saying, I think that we will also learn how to work with AI, so in a way that is efficient for us, that is kind of good for us. I'm thinking of I always try to encourage students to start thinking first before asking the AI, for example, because there's more and more talks about anchoring effect. So then this anchoring effect, anchoring bias, is when you see a solution, or if you see a bunch of solutions, you'll have a hard time thinking outside of those. So then if you start with the AI first, then maybe you'll think, oh, these are the only potential solutions, and you'll have a hard time thinking about other things. So with students, we're trying to come up with our own ideas first, and after, okay, maybe go check with AI if there's something to complement, to supplement. How can we use it as a tool and not as a crutch? And that's kind of the balance that we're trying to strike, I guess.
Thank you, Isabel. So I hope they answer your question, Amelie. And I think we have somebody raise their hand if we still have time to give somebody else a try.
Yeah, it wasn't really a question, but more contributing to that answer, to those answers. To that question, I feel like something that we weren't able to talk about is processes and ethics and processes, and thinking about crutches too. Something that I thought was a little bit hard to transition out of when I was learning UX, and in my education UX was ideating, and I second that. I need time, I want time, but it put me in a situation where I wasn't able to adapt to the company's work style. If you're more in the startup environment, they want to build fast, break fast, test things, and have as many users as possible look at what they're working on. And I think that in certain ways it can become unethical when you're expecting a design to be fully fleshed out in 2 days. But I think that you still need to be able to learn in terms of education. If I had to redo something, is maybe learn those skills of ideating quickly, brainstorming, how to do those whiteboard sessions, not in 3 hours, but in 30, because in reality, certain companies, they just don't have that time with stakeholders for you to do all that work. And sometimes it is a privilege to kind of find those companies and have those roles. Sometimes you can't just leave for that specific reason. If you believe in the product, you can make those changes and try to help the business understand that they need to account for design as a whole process, and not just oh, I'll just assign you this wireframe, just get it done for me in a couple of days and we'll look at it. And I feel like that's another part of product development that can become really unethical now that AI is out. So people can get all these competitive analyses out in 2 seconds. They want you to do the same but with higher quality, and so the expectations can be really weird. And one thing that is encouraging me to pursue my education even further is to really understand some of those things better about not businesses necessarily, but products, to build those skills and make myself more adaptable as a team member, because I used to struggle so much when I started, always wanting more time because I really needed it, but also because I also had a crutch. I just wasn't able to get in the problem solving mindsets that help you in certain work environments.
Yeah, I think we all designers, we all struggle with time. We never have enough time to do absolutely anything. And yeah, especially with this idea of capitalist companies that they prioritize revenue than users or design in the other end. But yeah, I agree with what you say. And yeah, those are some of the struggles that we have to go through as UX designers sometimes. Would anybody would like to add anything to this, or can we move to Katie? I think she has another question.
I agree. I like how you phrased it, Aaliyah. I think there's the ethics of just simply doing your job. And so we have an obligation to our clients to do good work and to deliver a good quality product. And yeah, there's sometimes these dilemmas of not having the time to do the research that would really make the product better. Yeah, and it's those are definitely trade-offs that that designers will encounter. Is figuring out how to get around those kinds of constraints. Yeah, it's the reality. And it's not always easy decisions.
Milena?
For some reason, my unmute wasn't working. I kind of wanted to add one more point to build onto my answer to Katie about biased data, and we have to acknowledge as designers, we have to make it part of our practice to acknowledge that there is actually no one ethics, right? We are talking even in this space as if ethics was just a given thing, as being ethical looked a particular way that we could all agree on. And it's not, like, it's not. And even in this group where I would sort of guess that we might be aligned on lots of ethical sort of lines, we will have some disagreements, and in particular of what is sort of more important, right? So in academia, these are kind of, for example, EDI is often put up against academic freedom or freedom of speech. Right. And depending on the situation, right, folks will argue one versus the other, even if sort of generally in kind of the abstract, both of those things could fall under, sort of ethical, the consideration of both those things will be ethical practice. And I think that the further you go with sort of away from whatever your sort of core community is, whether that's your sort of professional community or your disciplinary community, sort of in our case, academic community, right? The more difference you will see, right? And the more like it doesn't work, it works against us to sort of assume that there's going to be one common ground. And then the second piece is, I think we make a lot of assumptions around empathy. Designers are not actually trained in empathy. There's Anthony Carroll has a really great talk from a couple of years ago. She did a beautiful talk on how much designers talk about empathy, how much we sort of part of our sort of community kind of discussions are, sort of empathic practice, but how little empathy is actually taught. Right? We just kind of assume that we sort of develop it through osmosis, I think, or through some of the kind of tangential practices. But again, it's not actually a given. And I say these two things because I think there are also opportunities, right? That if we don't treat them as kind of given, right, that there is a particular way and we can just not worry about it, then those are at least two out of probably many examples of things that technology can't do, right? And it's going to be a very long time before they can even try, like it can even try, right? Technology can't do it. It can contribute in a meaningful way. So if we look for opportunities within ourselves and our own practices to strengthen those skills that technology, AI, bots, whatever, will have a long way to go, then I would hope that we will stop being so scared about losing the logo client for $20, right? Because we will see kind of we will be more cognizant of our own values and hold on to that rather than, honestly, do you really want that $20 client? Go to get your logo from some shitty bot. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Why not engage in more meaningful work and let the bots have the logos?
Yeah, I agree with that because I have a partner, a graphic designer partner, and she just asked me once if but can we just ChatGPT to build the whole website and then we don't have to do it by ourselves? And I'm like, no, we can't. And if you manage to do it, I don't want those clients who will pay for that, because that will be like really cheap, and I don't want that. So I know that maybe you've seen like a lot of posts or whatever that says like ChatGPT can just build you the whole code, and you can put your own website with ChatGPT, but it's not the reality. I mean, it might give you some of the HTML or whatever, and that's it. But what about all the other implications to put a website together, right? So yeah, I so far I haven't feel threatened by AI so far as a product designer yet. But yeah, we'll see what the future tells us about artificial intelligence. But yeah, so far I don't feel like creativity, empathy, and all those things necessary to do our work will be replaced by AI. I really don't think that. Will anybody like to add something else, or do we have another question?
Yeah, I'd like to add like a quick addition to what Valeria has said. Like how AI works is it just uses so much of data, like billions and billions of data, to generate something that is already existing. Like it never has the capability to think something new. So how these generative algorithms work is like for example, like if I'm to draw a tiger, I would just draw a tiger, right? But how I do that, because I saw the tiger, and with that memory, I draw the tiger. That's how ChatGPT and all the other generative AIs work. Let's just say that there is a new animal called liger or something. Like how like that's something completely new. It's very hard for an AI to generate something similar. And on the other hand, like as everybody said, like human capabilities are never like those capabilities can never be replicated by an AI. So that's something something precious that we have as living human beings.
Yeah, I personally see at least ChatGPT. That's I think the only AI that I use at the moment. I use it as my personal assistant, and yes, just to work smart, not hard. And that's it. So far, that's what I've done with it. I don't know, like I still want to discover a lot more of what AI has to give us. But yeah, I just use it as a tool, and yeah. Would anybody like to add something else to this conversation, or can we pass it to Meng now? Meng, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It has been a wonderful conversation so far, and thanks everyone for staying an extra 20 minutes, and yeah, and then the wonderful discussion as well. So, and as well as the chat in the discussion in the chat. Yeah, so if there's no more to add, again, thanks everyone. Thanks for the 4 panelists. Thanks for your time and insights. I'm sure that a lot of people had a lot to chew on after tonight. And we have shared, I'm sure that we have shared the LinkedIn information, contact information in the chat before. Feel free to reach out to the panelist or one of us and join the Slack channel. Let's keep the conversation going. All right.
And also, I would like to say thank you, everybody, for being such a wonderful philosophers, technologists, commentators. This has been a really fantastic conversation. Thank you so much, Mom, for your facilitation skills. Thank you so much, Valeria. Really great questions coming in. I would like to invite our panelists to share maybe some projects or anything that you are excited to share with the community. And yeah, if there is something else that you would like to share, that's also welcome and available. So who would like to go first? Oh, Milena, please.
Instead of typing it, I'm just going to say, because we're so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. We're starting a new journal, prototyping across disciplines. It's going to be great. so good, open source journal. So keep an eye out for it. Maybe, Luis, if when we're ready, maybe I will, if you don't mind, I'll send you the link, and if anyone is interested. But it's co-hosted by the University of Alberta and Mount Royal University, and it's sort of based on the premise that lots of different disciplines outside of the kind of obvious ones to us, like architecture and UX, UI, and all those things, use prototyping use the method of prototyping, and to bring that to the foreground, and to kind of bring it both outside of design, but also putting a nice spotlight to it as a really I guess a bona fide research practice.
Fantastic.
So stay tuned.
Looking forward to that. As soon as we get some more information, I'm going to pass it on to the community. And if there is any way for us to get involved, to support, to bring up that information to anywhere else, happy to do that too. Isabel, yes.
Yes, so many different things, but one thing that I briefly mentioned at the beginning, but we're just launching a post-diploma certificate. So all of our UX courses, so our 9 UX courses, are kind of put together as a diploma, a certificate for anyone who already has a diploma or a degree. They can come to take it's a kind of a 1 year, 10 courses, 30 credits that you can take part-time or full-time. So that, anyone who are from any field who wants to, already working in the field, or who wants to kind of shift to do more UX work, then you can take that certificate. So we're really, really excited to launch this. So yeah.
Fantastic. Congratulations. It's a big step forward for everybody. And the more our fellow professionals and ourselves know about the field we love, I think everybody's going to benefit. So same thing, looking forward to share the information and communicate about the benefits of the program as much as they can. Indi or Robert, any other things that you're working on or you would like to share?
No, Isabel covered the DXD certificate well.
Yeah, cool. So as you know, I'm from SegiStream, and we do have a community with all of our learners, and also we welcome all the public. Anytime if you feel like jumping into new technologies like designing for virtual reality or augmented reality, even game design, which is a new course that we started, which covers a totally different area of user experience, like game design. So if you want to talk about it, or if you just want to hang out, just want to chat about new technologies, I'm there like almost all the time. I have my instructors there. If you need any technical support in terms of setting up your virtual reality headset or something, feel free to join our Discord channel. Happy to take you in.
Amazing. This is very exciting. And I know that you're going to get new offices. I don't know if it's available.
We are moving downtown. We're moving downtown Calgary.
Nice. We are planning visiting you as a community sometime very soon, especially once the fridge has been restocked, so.
Yeah, as far as I know, they have they're going to have a small stage and a small restaurant kind of a thing in the middle of this building. So yeah, of course, we can have like a, coffee chat discussion over there.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Mon, Valeria, anything that you're excited about or anything that you would like to bring to the community?
No, I'm just would like to thank you all for staying till now. And Mong, do you have anything else to add?
No, but just reminds me to finish Black Mirror. I only watched 1 season, so yeah, that's a good reminder. But other than that, it's great.
I recommend it. Yeah, I finished it all. It's good. I like it.
Amazing. Well, maybe we can do a watch party. There are some episodes that are really hard to watch, so I hope we can balance it out with some SpongeBob or something like that. So we feel a bit more balanced. Yeah, thank you very much for everybody that stayed with us for the longest time. And also, yeah, thank you, Valeria and Mong once again. Sorry, Mong once again, because you have been really, really excellent. And many of you do not know, but this is the first time they have jumped into this role, and I cannot tell. They are absolutely professionals. So thanks a lot. I will try to do the editing as soon as I can of this video, and that will be soon available on YouTube. So we will have the opportunity to relieve some of those comments, and maybe going back 100 years from now and try to use it as a way for us to build museums, you know, because I'm sure that by that moment, this is the moment that we say, okay, that was the idea, that was the perception at the time. Well, what can I say? Thank you so much once again, and yeah, I'm looking forward for the next opportunity to see you, maybe in person, maybe online, maybe a mix of both if we are using VR, you know. And yeah, if there is any opportunity for us to collaborate, help, and support you, this goes very, very, this is close to how we do things in the community. Everything goes both ways.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you.